Hello, thank you for having me. Measurement matters, but it's hard to measure what matters most. We're working with high potential, high impact organizations that are tackling some of the world's toughest social and environmental problems. And often they work in remote and hard to reach areas. And this makes it all the more complex to measure what they're doing and how they're doing it. So at NexLeaf Analytics, we're taking a radical new approach to collecting data. We're coupling low-cost devices like mobile phones with sophisticated server-side analytics in order to transform everyday objects into scientific instruments. Take indoor air pollution. It's thought that over 1.5 million people, mostly women and children, die each year as a result of inhalation of smoke indoors. And most of the smoke comes from cooking over open fires. There's a number of clean cook stove technologies that are available, but it's hard to know which ones work, in which contexts, and how well they're working. So to answer some of these questions, we need to measure. The thing is that traditional instruments work really well, of course, but they're expensive. They can cost $5,000 to $25,000. So that makes it hard to put them in a number of locations and collect a lot of data. They're bulky, they need a lot of power, so they don't always work well in the rural regions where we often work. And so with our partners, researchers at the Scripps Institute of Oceanography, with Terry, whom we heard from Dr. Pachauri a couple of days ago, and with Project Surya, we're starting to develop a new instrument. And our interest is in making an instrument that we can put in a number of locations. So we stripped all the complexity out and we got down to the only thing that we needed, which was really a pump and an air filter. The pump pushes air through the filter. The particulates in the air get trapped on the filter. The more pollution, the more particulates you have, the darker the filter gets. And what this led us to was that we were then able to just take a picture of this air filter using a cell phone and emailing that picture to our servers. The computer there can, within seconds, translate that picture into a measurement of air pollution. So using very simple technologies and more complex computational models, we're able to dramatically reduce the cost of data collection. This means that we can start deploying instruments in hundreds or even thousands of households in order to really get a better understanding of what's going on in the field. We've taken this approach and generalized it. I'll give you one other example. Some collaborators we're working with, researchers associated with island conservation, are working to prevent extinctions. And they tend to work on islands because that's where a number of the extinctions happen. But the islands are hard to get to. So when they came to us, they wanted to understand how well their interventions were working. And so what we found is ultimately what they wanted was a baby monitor, because they really wanted to be able to hear what was going on their islands, no matter where they were in the world. So we used a cell phone again in order to build them a relatively low-cost baby monitor. And they're now able to access this data and hear what's going on all over the world. So what you hear there is a bird. And this bird was recorded a couple of days ago. And we can hear that because that data is streaming into our servers. But the other thing that I hear when I hear that is data. Because now that the data is going now that those sound recordings are going straight into our servers, we're able to translate those recordings into actual bird calls and use that information to start monitoring how bird populations are changing over time to really understand how their conservation impacts are working. We're at a point in time now where even off-the-shelf technologies can be used in new and totally creative ways in order to measure and better understand an organization's impact. For example, cell phones give us real-time access to the data so that we can take action when it matters most. And they give us dramatically low-cost data in a way that wasn't possible before, so that we can really start collecting lots of data in lots of places in order to better understand phenomena. And they're easy to use, which means that even people with relatively little technical training can still start collecting this type of data. And finally, coupled with the global reach, it means that this great potential is available to organizations around the world. Thank you.